Everyone talks about healing as a beautiful journey when one day you wake up and everything feels better. But no one talks about it, how healing journeys can be confusing, lonely, and sometimes painful. Nobody tells you that sometimes the moment you start to heal is the moment that you realize how much you've been carrying around, how much you've been carrying with you. Today, I want to talk about the side of healing that quite often people don't talk about it. The uncomfortable, messy, but necessary part of it. So I think that when we think about healing, we pretty much associate with what we see on social media, which most of the time is what they show us is like the morning routine, which is like waking up, empty stomach, do your meditation, go for a walk, do your yoga, do your stretching, do your mantra, do your this, do you that. It's all about positive thinking, become the best version of yourself, and just reprogram your mind in thinking positive all the time and so on. But I think that what is missing here is the truth that healing is not just adding beautiful things, positive thinking to your daily life. It's not just adding more of these positive things in your life so that you can change everything. Don't get me wrong, all of this has the positive effect on it. I admit that. Positive thinking, do the meditation, do the whole morning, let's say, routine with your stretches and stuff definitely improves your life. However, that's not all, because think about your body and your soul as a cup. Okay, you've been filling this cup so much through the years that at the moment you're right at the top. So for you, keep pouring water, keep adding things in it, what will happen is just overflow. Everything will just fall out. So adding all of this will do nothing if first you don't empty that cup. If first you don't work on what you've been accumulating, all the heavy emotion, all the traumas, all the past experience that have shaped you, that somehow your body stored on a cellular level, on your muscles and everything. Like, you need to empty your vessel if you want to have more. You need to alchemize all those emotions so that you can make space for something new. So once again, I don't think actually that whatever you see on social media is totally wrong. Like, yes, having a plan, having a schedule and everything is absolutely fine. I do have my schedule as well. I woke up at like 4-5 in the morning. I do my stretches, I do my meditation. When I can, I will do like 20 minutes of meditation. When I cannot, because there is work involved and everything else, I will do just 5 minutes of meditation. But the thing is, my structure, it doesn't feel imperative. Like, my structure, it doesn't feel like I'm forced to do this kind of thing because I want a best life. No, there is some time the day when I wake up, for example, and all I need is just my coffee, and yeah, I will sit like 5 minutes of thinking or journaling about it. Yes, true, okay. But like, if for one day, let's say, I drink my coffee first before my meditation, like, it's fine. It's totally fine. Like, I think we spoke about it actually, how important it is to have a structure. But at the same time, I want you to think that having a structure doesn't mean that you need to force yourself. You should always listen to what your body needs in that exact moment. So once again, I think that having a structure is really important. Having your routine is important because you set your body and your mind into a certain path. So it's okay having that. But think about it, that just adding more and more and more would not help you, and that's not healing. Healing means that you're gonna heal past part of you that you've been avoiding, that you've been suppressing, but that your body and your soul still remember, so that you can leave space for more positive to come in. Healing can feel worse before it feels better. It is important to understand this. When you stop to distract yourself with like anything really, but you just start to pay attention to yourself, to your soul, to your needs, to your inner self, to your higher self, emotions will start to surface, emotions will start to come up. And it's important that you don't suppress those emotions, but you alchemize those emotions. You start to process those emotions. You start to go through, ask question why you feel that way, what this is related to. You're becoming aware of patterns that you've been ignoring before. You start to understand even more your daily choices, because when you are aware, when you start the healing journey and you become more awake, you start to see how you're repeating the same choices every day in your daily life without even knowing. And that's what keeps you stuck, because you didn't process those emotions, you didn't process these old behavior, old patterns. You just be integrating those patterns and this behavior so much into yourself, so much into your body and your soul, that you're just repeating every single day the same choices. And life becomes this sort of like cycle when you're just going around and around and around without evolving and stepping higher. I think it's important to understand as well that sometimes we do not heal just for what happened to us. We do heal as well for who we had to become because of what happened. So sometimes in life, there are situations that no matter what, no matter how much you want them or not, they will change you, they will shape you. And that change is almost like a forced change that you had to integrate in your life to move forward. But the thing that I see that is most common in people is just because those changes, they're so, let's say, sometimes aggressive, some harsh, because like situations that maybe happen are so traumatic that you just need to change, that then we forget to process it, that then we forget to be aware of it, to be aware of the change that happened. And by not processing it, you're just stepping into something that doesn't really feel right, because you've been forced to step into that identity. So it's important that you stop for a second, you start to analyze it, what actually happened, how that changed me. And then once you accept it, in a weird way, it's almost like if you're telling the universe, okay, now I'm ready for the next step because I'm aware of who I am today. And you start to live more in line with yourself. You start to live more connected and in tune with your own identity, with your higher self. Another important thing about the whole healing journey, and this is something that personally took me a bit to understand, is that healing can feel lonely. Like when you start to heal and you start to be more aware of yourself and you start to be more conscious of your choices and your patterns, your behavior, what's around, who's around, and everything else, it's almost like you start to see over the surface level when it comes to people. And this will lead you sometimes to be alone, to feel lonely, to kind of isolate yourself. First of all, because you get so much into this whole healing journey that you just want to spend some time with yourself to understand more and more and more about you. And as well is because you start to kind of, see how people are not aware on what they're doing. It's almost like you see when they do wrong, you see what they're doing and everything, which actually leads me to one of the most common mistake that people do when they start to heal, which then it kind of contradict the whole healing journey, because obviously when you start to see what people do, how they act, and how they react, and how they could be better and everything, your ego takes part of it and start to think, if I can see this, it's because I'm better than them. And then you fall back into the ego trap. So it's important that, yeah, okay, you might be aware of it, but doesn't mean that you need to look at people with judgment. That doesn't mean that you need to, I don't know, judge people for their choices or for their path or whatever. Because one thing is for sure, each one of us is in the moment that they're supposed to be. Each one of us will start a journey. Who's gonna start later, someone's gonna start earlier, that doesn't matter. The thing that you need to be aware of is the fact that doesn't matter where you are, you don't have to judge it. And another thing that actually, this can actually have two ways. It can either go wrong or can either go good. When you start to kind of see people around and stuff like this, you start to think, I can help them. So you want to help as many people as possible, and sometimes it leads you to good, because like literally you help people to heal and stuff. But sometimes it leads you as well, once again, to the ego part, because you think that you can heal everyone, you can help everyone, but you're forcing that. You're forcing that healing, you're forcing that help, and that's not right. Because help should be asked. Can be offered, yes, but shouldn't be forced. Never. Also, I think that the whole healing journey, it can be lonely as well, because knowing yourself and knowing your values, your needs, your identity and everything, you start to set boundaries. And not everyone will accept those boundaries. And when you start to set boundaries and people don't want to accept it, what happens is people will walk away. People probably will start to talk about you. People probably will judge you just because they don't accept and they don't understand your boundaries, which is totally fine. But it's important that you understand that you're just doing good for you, because setting boundaries is nothing wrong with it. You're just showing respect to your own self. And in this case as well, you just start to not accept things that you're used to tolerate before. Like, if I think about myself, like few months ago, I would accept anything just for the sake of being fine with people, fine with people around me that I thought they were close to me and they were. When you change, people will recognize only the old version of you. And it's okay. They don't have to see what you've done. They don't have to see how much you changed. Like, at the end of the day, all of this is for you. Another important thing that we need to kind of remember during the healing journey is that healing is not a straight line. It doesn't work on a straight line. It's not a straight journey. Healing is a mix of bad days, good days. Healing is wake up one day and thinking, I'm actually going backwards, I'm not progressing. Healing is about understanding that one bad day, it doesn't define all. Healing is about understanding that a bad day doesn't erase all you've been building. And sometimes as well, like during the healing process, there are things that will trigger you. There are things that will trigger you and made you want to go back to your old version, just because obviously you lived for so long in that version that like it would be easier, it would be more comfortable. But that's the whole thing about healing, is stepping out of that comfort zone. What did actually started my healing journey? If I think about it, I don't want to say I've been forced to, but in a weird way, a specific situation has caused me dive deep into myself more. And this was actually like a breakup with someone that I felt so connected, someone that I truly felt at home. And all of the sudden this breakup brought me to be completely alone, and so alone to the point that when I thought I could reach to people that I know for help to be around me in this moment, I had no one. They weren't there. And that kind of, leaded me to touch the bottom. And then I was, okay, now we touched the bottom. I'm not gonna face this again ever in my life. I want from now on my life to change. I want from now on to live a different life. And then everything started. Everything started to take place. I started to kind of, within my isolation, I start to think, I start more than think, I would say more seeing who was around me and start to understand behaviors and things that I was doing or that perhaps they were doing, what I was willing to accept or what I was willing to not accept anymore. I think that during this whole process, one of the hardest part that I came across to and that I had to kind of, understand and accept, it was something actually so connected to my childhood. I was aware that I had so many, let's say, past traumas related to my childhood, being neglected and stuff like this. However, I don't think at that point I realized how much work that part of me needed. Now, I'm not here to promote any of these things that I'm about to say. I'm not here to say you should do this. However, what was for me a very much like an eye-opening, it was actually like a plant ceremony. So during the whole, if you know what it is, you know what it is. And during the whole introspective journey, I had the chance to face my inner child. I had the chance to see the children there and to understand what was missing there. I could see the sadness, the need of love, the whole part of that kid that was so scared of even talking or even saying what that kid was feeling, to express themselves, to just be loved and accept. So at that point, I understood that all of this is something that needed so much work. And that so much work, obviously, it led me to dive deep into it even more and be more alone and kind of, walk alone in this path because I'm so focused on it. And another important thing that I think I understood is that obviously this can kind of trigger another emotion, like all this kind of, restrain yourself, no receiving love and everything can kind of lead to something else, which is anger. The level of anger that was inside my body, it was so much. It was just a lot. That's something that I actually realized recently because during a webinar, we were alchemizing our emotion, we were dancing our emotion out, we were kind of, diving deep into our emotion before meditation by dancing and by connecting with our inner self. And I realized that by acting as a toddler, let's say, dancing it out and everything, and we had to process the anger emotion, I could understand how much anger it was trapped in my body and how much I actually store the emotion in myself so much. I nowadays, for me, it's very easy to um, love, because I really understood that love is not just something that you have to associate to what you feel to one single person, but that love is something that is more like um, a unite emotion that kind of connect people in different level, in different way, in a wide range. um, Happiness, joy are all emotions that somehow I start to understand more and more, and I start to embrace them as they are. However, anger is something that in a weird way I never considered part of me, mainly because I think growing up with my grandma, she always taught me to kind of treat everyone with compassion, be like one of those compassionate person that kind of understand that people can go through things, kind of understand that someone can have a bad day, whatever it is, but be more compassionate, which is good. However, it's not balanced when it's only that, because doing this only that, it can kind of lead you to suppress the anger. And one important thing that I want to say is that all emotions are valid, all emotions are important. It's not just because our society tells us that anger is a bad emotion that we should suppress it. No, you still need to accept it, process it, and understand it, so that you can, I don't want to say use it, but kind of regulate it. Maybe that's the correct word for it. If you would ask me, okay, but what do you understand now that you didn't understand before? I think that one of the most important things that I understood now is that we are all interconnected. No matter where you are at your or your life, let's say on your journey, whatever, we are all interconnected. There is an invisible thread that connects all of us. And another thing that I understood that is so important to me is that whenever someone comes in your life, whenever an experience comes in your life, it's because there is something there for your evolution. Is an opportunity there that you should take and you should accept for your evolution. And even when nothing is happening to you and you start to think like, I'm not moving in here, I'm stuck, that itself is an experience. That itself is something for you to understand. Is maybe there's something that you need to understand. Is maybe that the thing that you need to understand, that you need to slow down, that you need to rest, that you need to listen to your body, that you need to connect within yourself, whatever it is. But everything happens for a specific reason. And it's important that you're not there questioning, yeah, but what it is, what it is, what it is. No, just accept it. And also I think that another important, actually it is actually very important for me and for my inner child, I would say, because back in the day I always been like someone very spiritual, to be fair, always been connected to kind of witchcraft. I've been practicing witchcraft since I was 15 and I'm now 31, so it's been 16 years that I've been practicing and everything. So I always been connected with the spirituality in general. However, when I was a kid, I had this specific image in my mind that being a spiritual person means being almost like an hippie. And I'm saying this without any sort of judgment. I don't want to use these terms as a judging way, but like someone that lives in a more, let's say, natural way, someone that lives more disconnected from everything, someone that lives um, unite with the mother earth, which is beautiful. However, that's not spirituality, that's not being a spiritual person, because being a spiritual person is actually be fine even with like 10k in your bank account, even with 1 million on a bank account, and still be that stable person. It's not like stepping up or stepping down, but being at level within yourself. Like, you can be a spiritual person perhaps, and I don't know, be dressed head to toe haute couture. It doesn't change much if you're still like connected and in tune with your own self and you treat people right as it should. And I think it's so important that you understand that people connect with your experience, not with your advices. And that's why I'm saying it doesn't matter the way you look or whatever you're presenting yourself. Because once again, people will connect it for your experience and for where you are, what stage you are in your life. So if you're watching this video and you're in your healing journey, one thing I have to say to you, don't feel that this pain you're probably going through, this loneliness you're going through, is that because you're failing. It's actually probably that something is changing within you. So be happy about it actually and just accept it. If this video connected to you, leave in the comment one thing that you're healing from. You don't know who actually needs to read those words today. Until next time, love you so much.